So I'm talking to Vince Miller, who has just returned from the trip of his life, and actually the second of two trips that he went on, courtesy of SCOTTeVEST and a bunch of other folks who made it happen. And Vince just returned from Rwanda. And tell us about your trip.
Actually, I should mention we originally had planned to go to Congo, where a friend of mine has a stake in a tin mine, and we were going to go through Goma. Unfortunately, that delayed our trip as the summer was approaching. When we thought we'd be able to go, there was a lot of strife and conflict, and by September, the rebels were advancing on the areas we were going to go into.
I mean, this is like serious stuff here. I mean, these are,
Sure.
these aren't
Sure,
an 18-year-old child who you call a rebel. These are people that are terrorists that kill you.
Well, yes, but the whole rebel situation is a lot more complicated than most people think. The M23 rebels most of them are people that left the army, the country's army, because they don't believe in what's going on with the country. The country is very corrupt. Congo is one of the most corrupt countries out there. And the people that live in East Congo feel somewhat left out because everything's on the west side of Congo and they're on the east side. It's kind of like in Washington State. You've got all the people in the city on the left side, and you've got all the people in the country on the right side. So there's a lot of difference in the way things are done. But it's just a huge conflict area.
So you pivoted and changed, kind of at the last moment to go to Rwanda, and tell us, how did you choose Rwanda, and how was the trip?
Well, actually, Rwanda was the base anyway. That's where you go in and out. Kigali, and basically Rwanda as a whole is a pretty safe area to travel in. So you're pretty confident to get in there and you'll be safe. It is ruled by a dictator, but he's got a hand down to where he's trying to end corruption and trying to make it safe for business there.
Smart.
So it's really the shining spot. And the whole idea of this trip was business for my friend. And I was tagging along to be an ear on that, but also to observe and kind of tag along and go wherever we went. So Rwanda was going to be half of our stay, but half of it was going to be Congo. But we decided to switch that up and go into Burundi, which was the ultimate part of this trip for me. Burundi is a whole different world. It's a world that you don't go into very often. It's a world that nobody would go travel to.
I've never even heard of Burundi. I mean, how big a country?
Well, these are just postage stamp countries. So if you look them up, and you have to zoom in a lot to find them. But they still have 8 to 10 million people living in each one of those countries.
Wow.
Burundi is fairly heavily populated, even in remote areas. Like when we got a flat tire in the middle of nowhere, and it's pretty steep terrain and everything. The driver was from Burundi, and he had never addressed the situation of safety in the hillside, but I've never seen a guy move so fast. Hopping out there, and he didn't even have the lug nuts off the first tire before we had 20 people standing there watching us on the side of the road. And he was whispering to me, keep an eye out. And then later on, we found out there's a lot of bandits out there. And
so what would they have done? I mean, would they have attacked you, or?
Well, they would rob you.
But you had your SCOTTeVEST on. They never would have been able to find all your goodies in there, would they?
Well, there were times that I was traveling, and I thought the biggest thing I needed to save were my memory cards.
Yeah, no.
I actually packed a sacrifice camera with me that I threw in my duffel bag in case my cameras got stolen, and I'd at least have something to work with. So I was kind of thinking forward on some of that, but I was feeling safe most of the time because we were with people from the country.
Interesting. Well,
this guy from Burundi, later on, he told us about the bandits at night and things like that. And so, yeah, we had to sleep in a hotel out where we weren't planning to, just so we wouldn't be probably robbed on the way home. Because nobody travels at night.
So aside from the fear of being robbed, what would you consider the highlights of your trip to Burundi and Rwanda?
I'd say the highlights in Burundi were visiting the gold mine and seeing the gold miners and interviewing them, hearing what they had to say, hearing them how much work they put in and how little they get out of it until somebody strikes it. And once they strike it, then they're gone, and then the next group moves in and tries to find their way through. But it's a tough life out there. They're not making any money.
No.
And it was just interesting to see that and the villages around those areas because it was very much like the pioneer days where everybody strives to do what they do and do best because like we stopped and talked to a brick maker and he couldn't have been 12 or 14 years old. And he's just cranking these bricks out, had a little form and he had a glop of goo and he was doing like a pizza kind of thing and it was just a rhythm and motion. And I posted a video of that on the Facebook.
Do they speak English?
No, see, we had somebody with us.
Yeah, I'm surprised. So, was it hard to have internet connection and post videos and stuff like that? I was kind of surprised the live.
It was slow. Some pictures took minutes, like 5 minutes to upload.
Oh my God.
There were times that I tried to tweet and it just wasn't working. Certain things were harder to log into, but Facebook was the easiest thing to deal with, so that was good.
That's interesting.
I tried to upload videos and it would just fail time after time, or the power would go out. My best connection was when I stayed at a hotel in Bujumbura in downtown. When my friend stayed out at the local guy's house, and the connection was probably the best there, but it was still trying. And you could see banners. They have very little advertising there, but almost all of it is for cell phones. It is from the Chinese. And they had a big banner up that said, "Coming 3G," and it showed an old Chinese car, and then it showed a race car. And so they're advancing, and they're laying cable all across the country with manual labor. There's no backhoes. They're trying to do some job creation because most of the people are unemployed. They just mill around and try and find a way to make a buck.
So what do they do for food and does the government take care of them, or is there a lot of starvation? Or
No, everybody's well fed. The food's plentiful. It's fresh. It's probably the best food I've had ever.
Really?
When I travel, I have to worry about food. I have a lactose problem, plus there's just some processed stuff I just don't like. And there it was all basic whole food, and it had been picked just days before. You know, we stopped and bought stuff from people and just created a treat in the middle of the road while we were having our breaks done. Just chopped up avocados with lime juice and tomatoes, and they were all fresh. People selling them right there.
Wow.
It's amazing what they grow, and it's between 60 and 80 degrees every day.
That sounds beautiful. I mean,
yeah, it's a beautiful country. It rains constantly, but not all the time. They've got to climb out of the age of burning fossil fuels at the moment because it makes it all gray. And
oh, really?
If you look at a lot of the pictures, you don't see a lot of depth because it's all gray and overcast.
And that's all the pollution?
Well, yeah, because they do certain things. Like the brick maker, he makes his bricks and he stacks them in a square. They burn a fire in the middle to heat them up and cure them. And that creates pollution. You know, we're driving at 6 a.m. after we left our hotel that we had to stay at to avoid going through the bandit routine. And at 6 a.m., everybody's up. They've already been up for a couple hours. They don't have electricity, so they live by the sun. So by then, we were seeing all the smoke starting to rise from all these spots where the guys were making their bricks, and it was just filling the valley with smoke.
It's such a rare occurrence for someone to really go to a place like that. I know that when I was in Indonesia, I went to this island, and they had no electricity and all that, and it was oddly refreshing because it sort of puts you on the same level playing field. At the end of the day, they're all just people, and
Exactly.
It was unbelievable. I was looking at some of your pictures, and it reminded me very much of this one little village, and just that experience was one of the highlights that I had. So you would think that like the experiences, it wasn't like you went to like when you go to Europe, you go from church to church to church.
We did that in Italy.
Yeah, in Italy, yeah, of course, on the first trip. So
no, this was just seeing the people, the way they live. And also the other side of it, the rich. The rich live with walls around and broken glass on top or razor wire or whatever.
Really?
Yeah, and if you're either rich or you're poor. You're rich, you live up in the hills, the beautiful places. You drive up, you honk your horn. Some guy that you pay $100 a month opens the gate. You know,
That's all he does. His job is the gate opener, and
yeah.
yeah.
Like one place, he was the gate opener for 4 or 5 residents. Had a little security outfit, and yeah, they make $100 a month, and that's just tons of money for them.
That's a living wage, $100 a month, $1,200 a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
And did you make any friends with any of the locals that you might keep in touch with on Facebook or otherwise, or?
Actually, I was in touch with a fellow from Rwanda that showed us through a museum, and he's been a youth ambassador to the UN on occasion, and he wanted to talk to me about my son, but my son's way beyond that. He's already been working for senators, and he's deep into the law school at Boston U. So, but anyway, it was nice to keep in touch with him, and we're staying in touch with the Noel Orphanage. Max and I are going to try and set up a nonprofit and funnel some money just direct to them with no management. He's got a relative that's an accountant that's willing to put some time in. So that was one place that kind of touched us. So we left what we could out of our pocket, but we just kind of feel like we can do something, and it doesn't take that much. They don't even have a website, and I can design websites. So I'm in touch with a girl that's back there that speaks English that gave us a tour, and if there's little things I can do to help them out, it won't be monetary from my end, but it can be something like a website or a way to funnel money to them.
So upon reflection, when you applied for this contest and submitted that awesome video, having taken now 2 trips, the one trip to Italy and the second trip, were the trips everything you had hoped? Are you inspired to do more?
The Italy trip was what I expected somewhat. You're walking into a museum, and you look around the big museum, which is Florence, and there was a lot to see and enjoy. I kind of wish the weather hadn't been so soupy. It was just like Seattle weather, but I watched the weather for 3 weeks prior, and all they had was sun.
Oh, God.
So we brought it, and the cab drivers even said it. Oh, but it's been so beautiful, 70 degrees and sunny. But it was very nice getting into the country. I liked that more. We got to see some of the people, especially when we had our cooking lesson. To be with the locals, it was really cool. And that's kind of what I got out of the Africa trip, too. It was very cool to meet some of these guys in business meetings, some very cool people, Europeans and Africans.
You find them sophisticated, or were they savvy?
Yeah, they're business savvy, and most of the people that make money, they don't have a day-to-day 9-to-5 job. They make a deal, and so everybody wants to make the deal. Including the ambassador that we met. They all need a little piece of money, and that's how it works. A lot of those guys, they get their job, but they're given a position and they're told, go make your wage. And they make their wage however they can.
And there's no limitation. When you say make your wage, I mean, for people who might be watching this, that means, corruption, right? Straight up, that's what
Congo and Burundi and some of those countries live off of. If you look up on the corruption meter, Congo is way up, very high. Rwanda has brought theirs down very, very quickly under their president, Kagame, because he rules with a pretty strong hand. But he's trying to make it better for business there, and you can see the difference. So when we were in Burundi, who they apparently have a weak president, we saw their efforts because they looked to the north and saw what was happening. So like in Bujumbura, they're burying that cable. They're all the way across the country, they're burying that optic cable. The roads are getting better. The Chinese have been building roads there. There's all these things going on in town to beautify itself. In Rwanda, they have these boulevards. And every time I stepped out of our apartment, somebody was trimming and sweeping, going down the boulevard. And in Bujumbura, we saw them chipping all the gray, hard dirt or whatever they had in their boulevards and they're putting new dirt in. They're going to put plants in and try and beautify the place. It will take a lot of work, but you can see that there's some effort there.
Interesting. Well, I can tell you that, can you talk a little bit about your SCOTTeVEST clothes? Do you have ideas for improvement? Did they provide good traveling experiences for you, or did you have a favorite item? Or
Well, actually, I'm wearing my favorite item. I like this shirt the best. And what I liked about all of these shirts was the pocket, the zipper pocket that's underneath the armpit. The perfect size for your passport. And then I would put passport in one, and I just put a few folded up bucks in the other. So when somebody asked for money, I just reached under and out of my armpit, I can put money. They don't even notice it, but you start fishing around your wallet. And my friend had this, I don't know, that was something that he had around his waist and everything. It was very cumbersome, and then he got like $1,000. and I said, this is really easy. This is the ultimate. So this was my favorite shirt. Of course, I used the vest when I was traveling, but it was so hot to use it otherwise. But it's the ultimate airport tool. I love packing it full of stuff. And then I liked wearing the cargo pants because I could pack those pockets with stuff. Because when you're stuck for 12 hours in a little cubicle spot, you kind of want everything there that will keep you going. And so it's, whether it's candy or something to read or whatever, there were just a million pockets for all that.
Yeah, I love these pockets. We're incorporating these underarm pockets on a lot of the other products that we have. So, but it's odd knowing it. We actually have a patent pending on that placement and that positioning for a pocket. And it's awesome.
Well, it's the perfect size because things didn't get lost. It was really easy to just reach in there and slide out a 10,000 Burundi franc, which is something like $6.
Well, Vince, I must say that I'm glad you won, and it's been a pleasure following along with your escapades, and I wish you nothing but happiness and great additional travels in your life, and hopefully you'll be wearing SCOTTeVEST on those. And I know that you're working on putting some videos together that kind of summarize your experience, and we're all looking forward to seeing those, and we'll repost them when you do. And I just really appreciate it. You've done a great job. I think we picked the right winner, and thank you again.
Well, I was real happy with the Facebook. I thought it went really well. I appreciated all the people that made comments and entries, and I want to thank Lauren from your company for working with me. She did a great job.
Well, she's sitting right here. She's terrific. We really appreciate Lauren. So, well, thank you very, very much.
All right.